I'm horrified that you had to listen to my bio. I didn't know you were going to do that. Tonight is definitely about Shruti and Aisha. Congratulations. I love the movie so much. I have like a whole list of questions that we're definitely not going to get to, but mostly I just wanted, I just feel so honored to get to like be up here with the two of you and get to talk about this movie. So I will kick it off with a question. So you get to make a movie. Someone gives you some money and says, go out and make the movie that you want to make, and this is the movie that you make. Why?
That's a good question. First off, so excited to be doing this with you. It's a big honor, and thank you to everyone who's here. And to Snarky Elephant, to Neil and Michelle, you guys work so hard and just have the biggest hearts, so thank you for doing this. Why this movie? So this movie, well, I had been working on the script for a while. I kept writing and then putting it down, and it really just came out of nowhere. Like, total imagination, like, it wasn't based on anything, just, but it came from sort of a childhood and growing up fascination with sari stores in India, and being, a child of immigrants. Going to India was always a discovery, an experience of discovery for me, of self-discovery, of everything, as many of you have probably had the same experience. And I always found sari stores in India to be spaces of just kind of this interesting fluidity, this dynamic that was very freeing, because it's a space that's meant to be catered towards women, and mostly men work there, and mostly men, show off the wares, the saris. So it's very normalized for men to be in saris and sari stores, and I, as a young person, found that fascinating and loved it, was amused by it, and was also sort of freed by it. Like, something in my head, just something changed in my head about dress and gender, even just seeing that, I think, subconsciously. And I think it's just an interesting thing in India that, like, you may think of it as a place that is somewhat restrictive about gender and sexuality, which it is, but it's in fact also much more open than here in many ways. Things are more fluid. There's more that's accepted there in terms of expression than here, in terms of even affectionate expression, but also clothing. So I wanted to explore that as well, and tell a story about how even just, seeing someone model a way of being that is different from what you think is normal can free you to understand yourself better, to explore yourself better, to feel more free, and how powerful that is. Yeah.
And do you feel like, are you the Neelu in this film? Is that your kind of experience of going to India? And
in a way, yeah. I mean, like, that character was, the character of Zabe was the first character that I came up with, and I wanted a counterpoint to Zabe, and I wanted, and like, obviously Neelu's an Indian American, like that sort of moment of self-discovery through discovering Zabe and what he's going through, and also doing, their connection as kind of like, in their own way, little, outcasts or people who are not feeling completely seen among their people who they're surrounded by. I relate a lot to that, and so that, yeah, in a way.
Yeah. Is Delhi where your family is?
No, I don't have any family there.
Oh wow! But you shot in Delhi.
Yes.
What was that like? What was it like filming in India? Also, I'll share this with you.
Yeah, I can hand it to Aisha.
Yeah.
I was really scared to film in India.
I bet.
But I also really wanted to do it there. I felt, both in terms of just the vibe and like being able to shoot on location. That sari store is an old, beautiful sari store in India, in Delhi. Like, I did not build that. That was like that. And I also wanted to work with people in India on this film. I wanted to cast Indian actors. And I worked with a producer, Gajri Athar, who's from Delhi. She lives in LA. And so that was kind of the first moment of like, maybe we could shoot this there. And then I kept hearing people who read the script saying, this feels like a Delhi story. Like, you're talking about old sari stores, like, it just feels like it should be there. Because originally I was thinking we'd shoot in Mumbai, which makes sense in a way. But ultimately, logistically, it started to make more sense to shoot there, so we did it there.
Yeah. How long were you both there? Yeah. Or how long were all of you there?
I was there longer. I was there for like a month, to do some pre-production and finish casting and stuff. And then most other people came later, closer to the shoot dates. But Aisha has a different experience because Aisha's actually grown up in India.
Mm.
No way.
Yeah, I have grown up in India, and it was such a privilege to film there because our entire crew and the rest of the cast being from there brought a level of authenticity to the injustice to the country and the story. Even like the rickshaw shots are some of my favorite shots in the film, because you can see the lens our DP had while filming that. You can see how they didn't focus on the trash or the poverty, like that. Some of the stereotypes that are so commonly shown when you see an international film, especially depicting India, but having people from there, it was what made them feel nostalgic about the place. And nostalgia was a huge thing here because having grown up there, I didn't have this experience that Neelu had. I had a complete opposite experience because I was so desensitized to all of all the taboos because they were so ingrained in me. And it was such a beautiful journey of like seeing the world through Neelu's eyes and having lived in the US for 6 years at the time, to actually go back there from that perspective and to also be able to see it from the eyes of the people who cared so much about doing justice to their narrative and the narrative of the story.
What do you mean by desensitized to some of the taboos?
It's like in New York, right? This is my first year in New York, and already thank you. And like from the first month to now, I see the Empire State and I'm like, all right, it's a building. But from the first month, I was like, oh my God, this is insane. It's a whole different universe of things. And that brings a level of detail-oriented observation that when you live in a place, you are desensitized to. You don't look at these sari store people and think about, wow, that's weird. Because you've grown up there, you know that this is what it's going to be like. So you're desensitized to it. But with Neelu and this experience, you see this whole new lens of like, it's a whole different universe. So you see it and you actually notice these like very specific taboos that aren't as important even to people who live there, because they're like, especially these topics, like you aren't supposed to talk about someone, like that scene of like someone entering into the sari store, everyone's just like, don't talk to them, don't interact with them, don't look at them, but then Neelu does. And as a person who has grown up there, I also don't, and I don't even give that a time of my day even, it was beautiful going back to it because of Neelu.
Yeah, I love that you said the rickshaw scenes are some of your favorite, because as someone who's gone back to India and who's Indian American, it's remarkable to me that you actually grew up there, and because it feels like you're experiencing India on your own. To me, it feels like the first time, and I had this idea that like when I go back to India, it's so rare that someone's like, go out in a rickshaw by yourself. It's like there's all this family around you, or people want to show you around, but it's such a beautiful moment in the movie where this person is out on her own in a very busy city. I'm just curious, like, what was that an important moment for you? What was the storytelling part of that you really wanted to capture in that scene?
Yeah, true. It's pretty rare to be able to go anywhere on your own. So we were like, how do we get Neelu out? Yeah, I mean, I did want Neelu to have like a moment in the hustle and bustle on her own, to just see it and to experience it, because that's such a huge part of being on the streets in India, in a big city, just like experiencing the smells and the sounds and the life. And I don't know, I think it gives you a little bit of, your brain opens up a little bit, like things, she's so wrapped up in the wedding, the dynamics, her sister being bratty and her mom, and like that. She's over it, and like in that moment she could just like let go a bit and open up, and her mind is a little open. She's just like able to relax and be, again. So I think it was important for her to be able to do that before she enters the Zari store and has this unexpected experience. So I wanted her to be kind of open. Yeah.
So there's like this unique Indian American perspective, but obviously the Indian perspective too. What was it like for you to direct actors who were from different parts of the world? Like, was it different processes? Like, how did you speak to different people on set?
Great question.
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
Let me think about that. The actors that we cast in, so Aisha we cast here, she's based here. So, but the actors that we cast in India, it was a very different experience, and I think, also, I don't know, I think of myself as kind of a new director, so I don't even know what's like, I'm just doing whatever I think is the right way to go about it. But I think it was nice to, I don't know, I think as an American culturally there's like a way, I don't know, I think some people weren't as used to the amount of attention or like that I was giving people, and that was nice to be able to be like, yeah, no, we need to like sit down and talk and like spend time on this, and also just, every actor that we cast there was incredible, amazing to work with, and had their own incredible experiences, but a lot of them, had worked on a lot of commercials, Bollywood stuff, Netflix, Amazon stuff, so they hadn't really done that much indie, kind of like smaller indie stuff, and they were really excited about that, and that was really beautiful to see. They were just so excited and ready to throw themselves into something independent. And also, I just want to mention that casting Zabe, I was really nervous. I was like, this is a role that requires someone to dress in drag, and like, I'm going for someone who would be believable in the Zabe role, right? And also, believable as Zari. And like, the amount of people who applied for that role, it was unbelievable. People were so excited about this role, and like, so many young men like showed up to audition. They threw themselves into the drag. They were so excited about it. They also, many of them like followed me on Instagram. Were like, I love this role so much. They like still follow me. Like, this is so cool. Like, congratulations, man. Like, this is amazing. Like, I don't know. There was something about that character, and it made me feel really happy, because I was nervous about homophobia. Like, I just didn't know. Like, some actor might be like, oh, I don't want to do that. I was nervous about something like that happening, but it was the opposite.
And on set, was he fully open and just like ready to throw himself
Yes.
into the? Yeah, wow, amazing. He is incredible. Like, it's like such an incredible performance, and the two of you together, it's like such a beautiful dynamic. There's a moment when you're watching him put on the sari for the first time where it's like, it's so beautiful because there's no judgment. It's literally just like the curiosity of watching this thing happen. So I feel like you captured whatever you were trying to tell about that, and like this idea that you were talking about with the not being desensitized to things. Like, it lives in such a beautiful, beautiful way on the screen. So congratulations on that. The script has an economy to it. It's not a super wordy script. What was your process in writing and like honing in on the specificity of the words? Was there improv? Like, how did you work with developing that over the show?
Yeah. Well, I think it's not super wordy because, well, it is wordy in some ways, but my two leads are quiet people, and it's very kind of internal. They're introverts. They're quiet. They're kind of observing their louder surroundings, and so I think that might be partly why it's not, we're in their headspace a lot of the time, and it's an observant headspace, and until they have their interaction when they can actually kind of connect, which is important. The process of writing, it took many drafts, but we did do some improv on set. Like, I definitely like to have my actors be able to change wording wherever they need to. Like, I don't want it to feel fake coming out of their mouth. And definitely because half the script is in Hindi and I'm not fluent. This was a challenge. I had a lot of help. My producer was helpful, but also the actors. we translated it, like I can understand enough, but I'm not like good enough to be like, this word is off, so I really relied on the actors to kind of feel it out, like how they wanted to say it. So Kamal, who played Zabe, often changed things a bit, and as long as it felt, true to the sentiment of what we were trying to say, I think we went with it. Did you have any experience like improv? I don't remember if we improv much, you and I. Yeah, I think he mostly stuck to the script, but yeah, I think it's important to allow for improv on set, because that's where the actors play off. That organic interaction helps people loosen up. So I feel like you kind of have to let it happen.
Yeah, it has such like a lived-in experience. Like it feels like you all are family, and it really feels like you're visiting India. But it also feels like there's a history there. What was your experience working? You've worked in New York, and you just closed a play. Is that right? Yeah. Congratulations. You went to New York. Did you work in India before moving to New York as an actor? No. So then you get to go back and work as an actor. What was it like? Like, what did it feel like to work as an actor back in India?
First of all, speaking of script, right, accent-wise, I was slipping back into my Indian accent way too often. So I had to hold on for dear life. It was like so many takes. We would go back and we'd be like, Shruti would be like, cut. So you're not talking in an accent right now. And I was like, oh no.
I just want to say something. I had no idea Aisha grew up in India. Like, she is a chameleon when it comes to accents, and she will kind of match whoever she's talking to. So in India, of course, it ended up like being a little harder because everyone else had an accent.
Yeah, I would be talking to my producer and I'd be like, now I'm in this accent, so like I cannot go back anymore. And then so they were like, whoa. But as for working in India, I think that industry is extremely different to here, and then combine that with the indie experience. Everyone on set was so ridiculously committed to the story because it was something that wasn't talked about before. So having that passion around us, and then also just having grown up there, I think I know how to navigate social connections way better there than I do here. So it was so easily so comfortable for me, especially me and the lead and the co-lead, Kamal. We both instantly hit it off, even though Kamal probably said, I want to say 0 words outside of the script. Like, he did not talk to anyone. Anyone. He would not even look at people. And so many people tried to compliment him because he's stunning. He's so beautiful. And people would say that, and then he would just be like, and it was amazing that it was an amazing process trying to get him comfortable around me, because I'm huge on chemistry. I really, more than improv, more than what we're like as people, I really value chemistry with my co-actors. It just helps me during a scene to communicate as actors. And I was like, oh God, this is gonna be the toughest part of this, because there's no talking involved. But we slowly started connecting. Like, it was such a beautiful, gradual process, and he helped me so much with those things you mentioned, like intrigue and everything, because he was so intriguing to look at as a human. Like, at one point he mentioned to me his 2 favorite things to eat are popcorn and grass. And I was like, I don't know what to do with that. But then I ended up gifting him like a whole thing of popcorn at the end of the film, because I was like, you are just beautiful with it.
What about the grass?
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, what to do here? But that was beautiful. It was so reflective of our dynamic on and off screen. So it was amazing. It was amazing to navigate that with everyone on set.
I love that. I want to just check in on time. Do we want to open stuff up shortly? Well, I want to ask one last question, then I want to open it up and let people ask you questions as well. There's the moment at the dinner with Akshay's family, which I guess that's what they're dancing at. Yes, at the that's not the actual wedding, right? When she's, it's the actual wedding. Okay, great. Sorry, my fault, my bad. There's that stunning moment where the hijras show up, which I know is a big part of culture, and we've seen the establishment of them being locked out of the store or being pushed out of the store, and I just think it's such an interesting choice, I think, directorially in the script. Can you just talk about that moment a little bit where they, yeah.
Yeah, so again, when you growing up in the U.S. and you go to India, you see gender in a different way in India, and especially with hijras or third gender people, like they're everywhere, they're around, and it's part of life.
Excuse me, what are hijras?
Hijras are trans women in India, but they're also there's a long history. Sorry, I should have explained a little more.
So the 3 dancers at the end were men.
Yeah, they're trans.
dancing
Yeah,
at
they're trans women. Yeah.
At the wedding.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't-
So in India, there's a long ancient history of trans women, and they're both like very marginalized, but also sort of they have this religious and sort of spiritual significance, and in some ways they're really sort of spiritualized as if they're not human, as if they can curse people or bless people. So they are often invited, or they come to weddings and for baby births and things like that, and people are like, oh, you can bless us and stuff like that. It's both like, it's interesting, sometimes it's problematic. It's very interesting and different dynamic than what we have here in the US in terms of, there's just not as much of a history here in terms of like this sort of ancient spiritual thing. Anyway, that said, the trans community there is visible, and it's interesting how it's both marginalized in its own way, but also accepted in its own way. And so I think as an American, when you see that, it's another way of sort of just seeing how gender is expressed and lived in India. And I also feel I wanted Nilu to see the marginalization, and I wanted her to clock it and to understand it, and to see that they are their own community. Now in the short, it might not be the most clear that like that's a separate community than what Zari is sort of doing her own like drag thing. She has a little online presence. Like it's a newer thing that she's doing, but there's a connection there. There's and it's something that I wanted Nilu to be kind of clocking these different ways of how gender is expressed and how gender can be expressed, and that it's much more fluid and open than she might realize, or that she's seeing her own ways of changing how she wants to express or accepting it. So it was sort of a nod. I couldn't go into it too much or explain it all that much, but
I mean, that moment is so beautiful, and I feel like it does tell a lot of what you're saying about that there's a long cultural history, and then there's this sort of voice of the future in a way, I think, in the film with Nilu, who's learning a lot about her own history and what it might mean for her to then build upon that in the way that she chooses to dress at the wedding. So you achieve and I guess that's what I mean by the economy of it. You achieve so much with so little, which is just a testament to what you all made. So congratulations.